Let me let me thank Winnell and Heron, and she is one of the founding board members. What Winnell didn't tell you, the goal is the $25 million for this fund. On the philanthropic end, there are two components to this fund. It's the philanthropic end, and it's the venture capital side. As a founding board member, HEB has already contributed $1 million of that 25. So. They're being very modest. I called them, but there is a price to being on this board. they didn't tell you. Each one of these board members got to ante up $50,000 personal money, and I convened them. I did not anticipate being on the board member. I am the honorary chair, and they asked me for my $50,000. So, not city funds, my personal dollars. So I want to be very clear, but this is a high-cost board. If you want to join, membership is open right now, Checks can't be post-dated either, But these are entrepreneurs and business persons in our community that have stepped up to make a fundamental transformational change, and I want to thank them. We're in District D, and so I have to acknowledge someone who's just been very hands-on, very instrumental, been doing a lot of things, organizing a lot of events on behalf of the George Floyd family, and that's the council member of District D, Councilmember Carolyn Evans-Shabazz. Can't say enough for her. And even though she's been introduced already, she is visiting our city specifically because of the launch of this fund, but a very close friend of Stephanie Nellens Page, but that's Stephanie Rollins Blake, who is the former mayor of Baltimore and also the former head of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So Stephanie, please, And then I will tell you that the Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, wanted to be here this morning. Of course, she's in D.C., but I was on the phone talking with her last night even about the launch of this fund, and so really appreciate her. She's very committed to it, wanted to extend her congratulations and her support to this fund and its purpose and what it will be doing. So please extend a warm thank you to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. What an amazing day this is. And I cannot thank each of these board members enough for rallying behind this effort in raising the bar for the Bayou City and moving us forward. And this is a critical time for our city, and quite frankly, it's a critical time for our country. And it is imperative that we come together and address systemic problems in the Black and brown community, not just in this city, but in cities across the country. The murder of George Floyd was a catalyst for the launch of the Houston Fund for Social Justice and Economic Equity. All this week, I've been talking to members of the family, talked with them last night. Many of them are in California as we speak. They were hoping to try to make it here this morning. I got a text and said, unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to be here. But I certainly want to acknowledge the George Floyd family. While the impact of his death was felt around the country, nowhere is it more relevant than right here in George Floyd's hometown of Houston, Texas. And in honor of many who have come before us, Houston can and must lead the way for a brighter and more equitable future. And words cannot fully express our condolences to the Floyd family and the impact George Floyd has made on each and every one of us. But I can promise the Floyd family that we are committed in honoring his memory by taking action and by setting into motion lasting change right here in Houston. And let there be no mistake, but for the murder of George Floyd and how it occurred, we probably would not be standing where we are today. For many of us on the board, George is the reason why we are here. He is the reason we were compelled to action and why we could not sit on the sidelines and wait for a history of inequality and injustice to end itself. It will not end itself. We have to be the agents that we want to be. We are here now because it is George's hometown, and we are ready to lead the way in Houston. While Houston has deep philanthropic roots, and there is no question about that, this fund is the first of its kind in our city. The fund will act as a collective, pooling our resources to increase our ability to build a stronger, more impactful movement that benefits all of Houston, fostering a future filled with successful Black-owned businesses, leaders, philanthropists, artists, educators, jurists, innovators, mayors. Truly, the list is limitless. We can all agree that Houston is a world-class city, but it has to hold that place for all of its citizens. And as I've said many times, and I'm sure you have heard me say it before, I will not serve as a mayor of two cities in one, a city of haves and have-nots. In order to enact the transformational change that we are talking about, it will take the support of many. The social and economic disparities that affect some of our most vulnerable neighbors were not created overnight. Some inequities have been around for many years and have been in the making for decades. But the time to address them is now. And we have the talent and the resources and the means within this city to bring about a positive change if we so desire. This fund, spearheaded primarily by the private sector, by these entrepreneurs and jurors and others in our city, and housed outside of the city's structure, can be that sort of change agent that can make a difference in communities throughout our city. It was created to benefit people who need our support, and the reality is they have needed our support for a long time. And people have just gotten frustrated and tired of living in a status that's different and unequal to others. They just have gotten frustrated. No contributions, no engagement as it relates to this fund is too small to make a difference. But I want to challenge each of you to dig deep. This fund is not thinking small. We have big transformative changes to enact, and we can't do it alone. In fact, the city in which we live, and quite frankly, cities across this country, are not looking for incrementalists. They are looking for change agents. And I am so grateful to these companies and organizations that have already joined the list. And I ask the rest of you to please join not just myself and these board members, but HEB, Verizon, HNTB, Diversity Fund Houston, Cigna, Enterprise Holdings, the New Boulay, and this board to make a transformational difference. In leveling Houston's field of opportunities, we can make a true difference. So help us to invest in other nonprofits that primarily cater to communities that have been underserved and under-resourced for a long time, like 3rd Ward, the Trey, like 5th Ward, the Nickel, like South Park and Sunnyside, like Acres Home, the Fofo, like the Denver Harbors and the Magnolia Place, neighborhoods and communities outside throughout our city, and help us build an environmental justice and innovative technological center, which I would simply describe as ION 2. There's an ION 1 that will soon open its doors on South Main. And for some, they're saying, is that a place for people of color? Well, in part, yes. But there is nothing wrong with intentionally building an environmental justice, innovative center referred to, in my words, as Ion 2, primarily anchored by an HBCU like Texas Southern University. These things do not happen on their own. These things require change agents. So I'm asking businesses and corporations and endowments and others to partner with this unique setup, this unique board, this Houston Social Justice and Economic Equity Fund to make a difference. And then for those entrepreneurs, that talent that exists in communities all over this city, let's provide them with the seed money so that their talent can be realized in a real way. And that's the purpose of HTX Fund. That's a part of the Social Justice and Economic Fund. And I certainly want to acknowledge Paul and Bernard for taking the lead, for already generating about $25 million in venture capital funding. That's a part of this initiative already. So as you can see, over the last 10 months, a lot of things have been happening. But the reality is there is still room for the rest of you. And so I'm hoping that in our city, those corporations and companies that not only are anchored here, but have worldwide reach, will partner with this board in order to make transformational change that will say to the kids in our city that there is room for you, and we believe in you, and we see you. And that time to make that fundamental investment happens to be right now. I'm excited. I hope you are. Stephanie says she come out of a family of 12. Nell says she come out of a family of 8. Well, as the mayor, I come out of a family of 9 by my mama. But if you add my father's first family, add 4 to 9, and I trumped them all. 13. Okay, thank you. And I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Let's make a world of a difference right here in the city of Houston.